What's going on? Welcome into Empty the Notebook. I'm Evan Washburn, joined by Aditi Kinkhabwala. This is our debut show, the show that hopefully takes you behind the scenes, onto the sidelines. Aditi and I obviously roaming the sidelines in the NFL all season long. And we've done this, Aditi, over the last year or so in segments, but they've somehow decided to give us a full 30-minute block. So moving forward on Mondays, you and I get to empty the notebook, talk about the big topics around the league, but also dive into some of the stories that we live and breathe each Sunday. Couldn't be more excited to be doing it with you.
I am just excited that I am sitting here, but before we start, Evan, I need to apologize for the state of my hair. It is indeed soaking wet because I did indeed just get out of the shower, because I did indeed just get off of a red-eye connection through Newark Airport with a few little mishaps along the way, which I think is part of the story of our lives, right? Not
Yes.
quite necessarily everything going as smooth as we'd like.
That is what this show is about, as much as it's about the stories, the X's and O's, the drama of the NFL. It's about the real grimy grittiness that is covering this league. And this will be a hair-dominant show. You can bring it as much as I can. So, hey, it's week 1 for us. I know it's week 11 this Sunday in the league, and we just wrapped up week 10, but we'll get there. But let's dive into what we like to call the lead. Okay. Obviously, a journalistic term, but maybe the lead story of Sunday. And there's a lot to sort through, but I think, and maybe I'm a bit prisoner of the moment here, I'm going to go with what I saw on the sidelines in Landover, Maryland, the Pittsburgh Steelers winning a back and forth. It felt like a playoff game, Aditi, 28-27 win over the Commanders. This puts Pittsburgh in great position as they embark on a really challenging stretch. But this game had it all. They take the lead early. They go down in the second half. They're turning the ball over, fake punt situation, some penalties. It was ugly, but it felt, Aditi, and you know this as well as anyone, like a culture win, a standard win, to use a Steelers term. And it was a Russell Wilson experience that I think finally really cemented the fact that Mike Tomlin made the right decision when he made the move to put Russ under center.
I think when you say the word ugly, that's sort of the magical thing right here. Mike Tomlin does not care about style points. He does not care what the wins look like. He just wants the W's. And what we're seeing from the Steelers, we saw it with Justin Fields early, we're seeing it with Russell Wilson now, is that it doesn't really matter how they go about getting that win. And this is the magic, is that they can indeed do it in a very balanced way. Sometimes they do it on Russell Wilson and George Pickens' magic. Sometimes it's on the strength of their defense. Sometimes it's on their run game. That's what you want to see out of a contending team. The piece that I would sort of gives me a little bit of pause right now is that only 3 of their 7 wins have come against teams with winning records. And there's kind of a brutal stretch coming up ahead. So you're clearly a believer. You've seen them up close. You've seen the Russell Wilson experiment or change, whatever you want to call it, as it has progressed each week. Are you totally bullish on this team? And if not, what are sort of the concerns you're hoping that they tick off these next few weeks?
I wouldn't say, Aditi, I'm fully bullish, and you're exactly right. And as we can see, this is the schedule. They still have to play the entire AFC North over the course of the remainder of the season, and then they have to meet up with Kansas City on Christmas, the Eagles. What I saw yesterday in Pittsburgh that I think it really has me feeling different about this team than years past was it was the first time since Ben being under center that you felt like when the other team had grabbed control of the game, and make no mistake, the Commanders had control of that game, there was a belief on that sideline and around that team that they could make a play. And look, they made it with a guy who they just traded for on Tuesday in Mike Williams. And he's only in the game, Aditi, because Austin is on the sideline and in the injury tent. So he's never run that route. So it was one of those moments that we've all lived covering the Steelers throughout the Ben years with Mike Tomlin and with a great defense, where they found ways to win games with a big play late and and by never sort of feeling like they were out of it. I feel like those moments were a bit lost in the Kenny Pickett times, the Mitch Trubisky times, and just what it's been like the last few years. I still think they've got to prove themselves starting Sunday against Baltimore, who I would have above them in whatever proverbial power ranking you might have. And obviously Buffalo and Kansas City in that discussion as well. But I thought yesterday was a critical win for the growth of this version of the Steelers, because not just Russ, Aditi, and you know this, it's so many new pieces that are part of a program that we think of as one of the more established in the league.
But I think that we're sort of underrating two pieces of this story. It's very easy to sit here and kind of say, like, the headline is, whoa, the offense actually looks more functional than it has the last 3 years. But so much of that has to do with having a legitimate, real, smart offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith.
Great point.
All offseason, I sat here and said, the biggest addition to this Steelers offense, not necessarily all these young offensive linemen, not even the quarterback, will be Arthur Smith, a man who knows how to run the offense. And I know I've told you this story, Evan. Last year, our crew was in Atlanta with Arthur Smith. My analyst and I got into this very long conversation with Arthur about Dick LeBeau and Dante Scarnecchia and philosophies about football. And I said to him then, the way you talk about football is the way football is played in the AFC North. Guess it was my spidey sense, but that's exactly what we're seeing. Arthur Smith is the perfect man for what Art Rooney and the Steelers, Mike Tomlin want to do. And the second piece of the story is we had all written Russell Wilson off, and I will raise my hand to that. I saw what he did at the end of his career in Seattle. Thank you, Evan. Thanks for not leaving me hanging there.
No, I'm with you 100%.
We saw what happened those 2 years in Denver. To see Sean Payton, who started the season so high on Russ, to then come down with, well, I don't like how he climbs out of the back of the pocket. I don't like how he manages a snap count. I don't like how he can't throw to the middle of the field. Russ has really and truly taken this as his last opportunity. And you have seen something different in the way that he is approaching the game and the way that he is staying within the prescribed system, within what Arthur Smith is asking him to do, and then allowing for those few freaky moments, like what you said, was that essentially drawn in the dirt, throw to Mike Williams at the end of the game. And you can do that when you generally believe in what you're doing up until then. So really the resurrection of Russell Wilson and the re-respect, how do I phrase it? Recognizing once again why Arthur Smith has been valued as an offensive mind. Those are two really huge moves that were made in the offseason that are paying off.
No, it's a great point, and we'll see them be tested this Sunday against Baltimore and what will be must-watch television. And obviously, the Commanders part of the story as well, and they get a chance on Thursday to show that they can play in this weight class as they've fallen now to the Ravens and Steelers when they faced up against some of these bigger programs across the league. Look, we're just getting started here on Empty the Notebook. Coming up after the break, we might have to throw some flags on some statements, and Didi and I'll get into it. Stay with us. Welcome back into Empty the Notebook, the show that takes you onto the sidelines, behind the scenes, and breaks down the league from the perspective of two NFL sideline reporters. I'm Evan Washburn. You know Aditi Kinkhabwala. And we're going to throw some flags. We don't like flags in games. It slows things down, but they are necessary to make sure we're playing by the rules. So the way this works, Aditi and I are going to kind of go back and forth with some declarative statements about something happening in and around the league, and we get to decide if we're going to throw a flag on that statement. So I will go first, Aditi, with something you were very close to yesterday afternoon in the Valley of the Sun. The New York Jets are the biggest disappointment in the season through 10 games.
I've had the distinct pleasure, I don't know if I'd call it a pleasure, but I've had the distinct pleasure of being around the Jets 2 of the last 3 weeks. And I'm I'm going to actually throw the flag on that one. They are
Okay.
indeed, yes, the Jets are indeed extremely disappointing. There is a lot of talent there. Expectations were certainly high. However, I think that the Browns and the Cowboys are actually greater disappointments than the Jets. Let's be perfectly honest here. We didn't know what Aaron Rodgers would be coming off of that Achilles injury. There was always sort of a question about what management would do, and clearly that was answered when Robert
What
Saleh
a
was
great shot right
Chile
there. That
and
says it all.
well, no. And I don't necessarily mean general manager Joe Douglas, but you never know how, we talked about the Steelers and certain organizations, the way they're run, and other organizations don't necessarily have the same track record. So again, look, the Cowboys spent money on CeeDee Lamb, on Dak Prescott. They're coming off of a 12-5 season. The Browns, after going to the playoffs behind 5 different starting quarterbacks and returning everybody intact and that dominating defense, didn't you kind of feel like the Cowboys and the Browns were both going to be great teams? And I don't know. I felt like I was a little bit more bullish on both of them, so they are more disappointing this year than the Jets. Although the Jets are
No,
indeed disappointing.
it's a good argument. And I was speaking, Aditi, more to the visual of Aaron Rodgers and that towel over his head. I'm not sure if you could see that on our great full screen there. But when you match up drama to production and discussion, it's going to, in my mind, be most disappointing. But now it's your turn to give me a declarative statement. And I got to decide if I'm going to keep this flag in the pocket.
All right, this one is right in your backyard, Evan. Lamar Jackson is the leading candidate to win the MVP.
Oh, it's complete. There's no holding on this play. It was a clean play. He is, in my mind, the MVP of the NFL through 10 weeks, and he's got competition both in the actual players playing other positions, maybe even on his own team, and Derrick Henry. But more so, I think Lamar's going to compete with himself and the fact that he's won it twice before and he won it a year ago. But by all metrics, and really what I lean on, and I'd love to hear your thought on this, I lean on what I see. And he just looks to be at the sort of zenith or the most in command of the position that I've seen. And I've watched him since his first day at a practice here in Baltimore. He's got competition again in Josh Allen, Jared Goff, who we might get to later, had a tough night, albeit in a win with those 5 interceptions. And I think Patrick Mahomes is lurking. They are doing it in a different way in Kansas City, but they're winning. And we know that this often becomes a team award. But I just think what Lamar is doing, you can see statistically where he lines up. He's 1, if not 2, if not 3, in all the critical components. But again, I go back to just what you see from him. And Thursday night was a great example of it. And lastly, he's doing it now, which he hasn't had in recent years, without a defense to buoy him. He's having to really carry this team along with Derrick Henry. So no flag on this play, Aditi. I'm all in on Lamar.
All right, no replay assist necessary. I am totally with you. And you've made the point. He really did invest in the growth of this offense this offseason. I know he was very involved with offensive coordinator Todd Monken and head coach John Harbaugh, and it really speaks to how much it matters to him to take the next step. So good call. No review necessary.
Yeah. We might have to bring Gene in on this one, though, because I'm going to say the Chiefs will go undefeated, obviously sitting at 9-0 after a blocked field goal yesterday. And shout out Leo Chenal for getting his mitts on that one.
This one is so hard. I am holding the flag right now, but I mean, here's what the problem is. I'm letting the human element come into this right now. I want to throw
That's
the
good.
flag.
We're human beings. They should be part of it.
Well, yes. Okay. So I want to throw the flag because, yes, the Kansas City Chiefs are a team that know how to win. They have the necessary scar tissue. Great teams pull out wins and get lucky. They are learning to win in a completely different way. All of those things are true. And on a personal level, I thought that they would lose to Buffalo last year. I was wrong. I thought they would lose to Baltimore last year. I was wrong. This was in the playoffs. My lesson by the time I got to the Super Bowl is that you never bet against the Chiefs. But by the same token, it's really, 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 really hard to go undefeated. And I just kind of feel, Evan, I don't know. I don't think that they're going undefeated.
Throw
And
it.
might
Throw
not
it. You
be
got to
bad
throw
for
it.
them.
You're the official on the
All right,
field. You got to
I'm
make
not
the
even on
call.
camera.
Arrowhead's
It's
rocking.
thrown. There you go. I threw
Did you
it.
throw
I
it?
threw it kind of really far
Okay.
over there. I did throw it, but
Yeah.
now I'd have to get up to like go pick it up. Sorry.
That's all right. We'll check in with counting. Maybe get you a few more flags. Look, I'm with you. I'm throwing it as well because I just think that not because the Chiefs aren't a team that could go undefeated, or I mean, right now I have them with Detroit in the Super Bowl. It just kind of feels like that. But just going through it this morning, I mean, we got Buffalo, a huge game on CBS. Tune in on Sunday. A weird one against Carolina. Our crew will be there for that one. But then you got the Raiders on Black Friday after Thanksgiving. You've got a Chargers game, Steelers on. I mean, and then they might be in a position, Aditi, where they were last year, where they sat some guys in the final couple weeks. So I just think it's hard to sit here right now, especially the way they've won these games, to think, oh yeah, they're going to run through this thing, a la maybe the Patriots a few years ago. So we'll throw the flag, but it's been fun to watch. Last one quickly here, Aditi. Jared Goff, or excuse me, this is yours. Why don't you go with the Goff statement?
All right. What do you think? Throw the flag. Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions. Therefore, there is major cause for concern regarding the Lions moving forward.
I'll be quick here. Flag has been thrown as we now move. I got to wait till I'm back on camera so we can get the visual. But I'm throwing the flag here because he threw 5 interceptions. They won the game based off of their defense and their ability to be resilient. Again, flags up. And then you look back, this was an outlier. And I believe in sort of that idea that this is not who he's been all season. You look back at the previous game, 0 interceptions, 0 interceptions, 0 interceptions. And I love that he kept firing too. Old Jared Goff, maybe he goes into a shell a little bit after that type of start. But you look at this, he brings it late in the game in the fourth quarter when it really matters. So absolutely throwing the flag here. You don't want to do it again. You don't want to play with history here with 5 interceptions, but no flag, or excuse me, no cause for concern. So flags down on the field for this one.
Totally agree. And side little editorial note, I love these quarterbacks who are getting second chances and second places. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, showing that there is life even if your first team gives up on you.
No doubt. All right, we're going to actually empty the notebook. I have my notebook here. I'm going to empty it when we come back and maybe tell a story from our game on Sunday that we didn't get on the air. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back into Empty the Notebook. Evan Washburn alongside Aditi Kinkhabwala. And as we wrap the show here, we want to go back to the origin of what this show was and is. It's all the information we get ahead of a game on Sunday. And so much of it, Aditi, as you know, doesn't make it on the air because it might not align with what's happening on the field. And that's always the priority, the game on the field. But we have so many great nuggets, stories, and things that we think fans would love to hear. So we're going to try and pick one from each of our games each Sunday and put it into the show. So I'll start with, again, I was in Landover for Steelers Commanders. We meet with both teams. And I'll be honest, the Russell Wilson, Mike Tomlin marriage, if you will, was one I didn't see coming. And it was one that was kind of wrought with some discussion, not controversy, but obviously when Justin Fields does what he does. But talking to Russ about maybe the origin of this relationship, it goes way back. These are 2 Virginia guys and obviously way different ages. But Russell Wilson went to the William and Mary football camp, and that's where Mike Tomlin played. So he sort of learned of the legend of Mike Tomlin there as a kid growing up in Virginia. And then once Russ became a pro, there were times where he met up with the Steelers and they played against them. And he actually pointed out one moment that I thought was interesting, that viral moment where Russ is coming back from the finger injury and he did the whole play the game out before the game during warmups, and the Sunday Night Football cameras are watching it. And some people thought it was over the top, but whatever. It became a thing. Russ told us Mike Tomlin really appreciated being able to see that. And what I've noticed in those conversations, both Russ and Mike, is that while they may seem different, who knows, they have a real alignment with their obsession for the process and for football. And I think that's probably why we're starting to see this production and this relationship really flourish.
I love that you talk about that, the relationship, the process, because that is what I saw out of Kyler Murray. And we did hit on this in our game, but we have really seen the evolution of Kyler Murray. And I think that he is one of the true great stories. And the Cardinals, who are playing so hot right now, winners of 4 in a row, leaders of their division, are also a great story that maybe is flying a little bit under the radar. Now, Kyler Murray, up until now, if his team won, it was on his back, it was on his arm. He had to have a great game for his team to win. Drew Petzing comes in as offensive coordinator. Jonathan Gannon sits Kyler Murray down and says, look, we've got to take some of this pressure off of you. Some games have to be boring for the quarterback. And Kyler Murray said, it's hard for him. He's used to impacting the game in every way. You take a week ago against the Bears, he won that game by basically checking the ball down to his monster run game. But he has completely leaned into that. He has completely bought into that. Drew Petzing has said to him, of course, every superstar wants to be the reason that their team is winning. But P.S., we're not playing fantasy football. And guess what? Kyler Murray is playing so well that Jonathan Gannon yesterday said that he is playing football better than anybody on the planet. It's what he said to us in our meetings, that even though the numbers aren't gaudy, if you look at what Murray is doing, he's not just that unbelievable superstar that we saw. He's not just that guy that can do these dynamic things on his feet, but he's playing so well in the pocket. He's got unbelievable command of the offense. And again, it's about the maturity to recognize that true balance is being able to win in a variety of different ways. And I tell this story because I did make Kyler Murray laugh after the game when I said, so this week wasn't quite as boring as last week, was it?
Aditi, producers in our ear, much like they are on the sideline. That's a show. You're in Tennessee for Vikings Titans. I'll be in Pittsburgh, Ravens Steelers. We'll see you on the sidelines this Sunday. And you can catch up on these episodes on the NFL on CBS YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.
Until next week.